Hey, Planet Poke people, what's going down? Do you know what time it is? Oh, you guessed right. It's time for Pokemon of the Week. I'm your host, Diogen Z, and before we jump into this week's Pokemon of the Week, I would just like to thank every single one of you who is contributing in the form of comments and feedback. You guys make this series far better than I could ever hope to do. Because I'm just one person with one strategy and no Wi-Fi, so rarely do I get to test my skills in the metagame. The only time that I do is when I go onto the Pokemon Online app for Android, and thankfully I've got unlimited 3G there, but still, so many more of you who have commented, and I've seen other Planet Poke creators come on here as well to give feedback. You've had a lot more experiencing in battle than I have. You've seen a lot more scenarios than I have. So you are as much a part of this series as is what I do weekly. So if you're just watching this casually and getting upset at the moveset, or even if you enjoy what I suggest for the moveset, I encourage everyone who watches this video to please take a look at the comments below, because there are so many great suggestions. I feel as though I'm being more educated by you guys than I am to teaching you. But this week, we're going to talk about one of my favorite supporters, and that is Ninjask. Ninjask is an awesome 3rd gen Pokemon who got even cooler in the 5th gen when he gained the move Final Gambit. Looking at its stats, it's pretty pathetic all around. The highest stat it has is speed, so that signifies to you that this is a supporter. It may be fast, but okay, a 90 attack is relatively good, but when you look at the defense of 45 and special defense of 50, you realize it has no lasting power on the field. And that's fine, because as a supporter, it's not meant to sustain many hits like a wall does, and it's not meant to deal out massive damage like a sweeper does. But what you want to do with this Ninjask, it's one of the Baton Pass supporters, where it's most optimal to have Baton Pass to transfer its stat boosts onto another fighter on your team. So say that you've got a bulky Tyranitar that you didn't focus any EVs and speed on. If you attach Ninjask onto your team and say use it at the very start of battle, or even in the middle whenever it seems most optimal, then once you get a successful Baton Pass off and a couple of turns have passed, Tyranitar is going to be a rushing tank. The moves that I chose for it not only enhance the speed, which happens naturally by waiting each turn thanks to its speed boost ability, but also I would like to include Hone Claws, this way that if you get one Hone Claws off, you're for the better, increasing attack and accuracy. So if you have a move that is a little bit iffy when it comes to accuracy, say that you have Thunder, and you don't want to miss. You want to make sure that, you know, I don't have Rain Dance on my team, so I'll need some sort of new way to increase accuracy. But when you're working with a sweeper, they don't necessarily have high defensive stats, so they could be wiped out, especially with something like an Earthquake if it is an electric type that you're trying to have get off this move. So once you do use the Baton Pass, you'll be transferring increased speed, increased accuracy, and heightened attack. Now, I like to include Protect on this set to gain an extra step. Any more turns that you could stay on the field with Ninjask is awesome. I include a Focus Sash onto this Pokemon for that very reason. It is not going to bear any attacks otherwise. So let it bear one attack like an Endure with Focus Sash. That's the turn that you use the move Hone Claws in. This way, no matter what your opponent wants to do, whether they're trying to set up on you by raising their own stats or setting up arena traps, which usually the first Pokemon they send out is what does that, which is why I recommended earlier bringing Ninjask out in the beginning of your team's match. Once you have Hone Claws in that turn, maybe they decide, alright, it's time to destroy this Ninjask, and they attack you again. Well, that's fine. Continue using Hone Claws until you've gotten your HP whittled down to 1 thanks to the Focus Sash. And once that happens, do Protect. This way you get a 3rd speed boost. and then it's time to use Baton Pass and throw all of that to your team members. Now there's one last move that in the 5th gen makes Ninjask amazing. It's a move that can only be obtained by breeding, and a simple way to breed for this move, Final Gambit, is to breed with a Celigore in the 5th gen. What Final Gambit does is it's pretty much your last stand. The Pokemon sacrifices its hit points to wage as much damage as it can based on its health on the opponent. Now this is where I need some clarification from you guys, because from never using the Final Gambit move, when I used Ninjask it was more back in the 4th gen, I don't know, is it the overall health? Is it the overall hit points of the Pokemon? So say that you max out its health, you know, what would you do there? Because if so, then you go 252 speed, 252 HP, and throw the rest to attack, and you're done. But if this doesn't work out, if it's that it's dependent on how much health your Pokemon has left currently on the field, then this is not as good a move as I had fathomed. And if that's the case, then all you have to do is switch that 252 of HP to attack and remove the additional throwaway EVs to the HP, because remember, Ninjask, no staying power. So whatever extra EVs you have can be tossed to HP carelessly. But why you would want to max out your HP if this move does what I think it does, being that however much health it potentially could have, that's how much damage it does, I think that it can max out at around 300 and something. This way, if all else fails with your stat boosting, Ninjask will still deal a big amount of damage and leave a scar on your opponent's team, whether or not you were successful in transferring those stats. Now, if Final Gambit is not as good as I suppose, and if it really is dependent on your Pokemon's current HP, not their overall potential HP, then what I would recommend with the 252 attack, 252 speed, and the rest to HP is put a Giga Impact there, because you must think about it this way. The only reason you'd use a Giga Impact is if it's the last turn for Ninjask. And thankfully Ninjask does have its second highest stat being attack at 90, so it will do a good amount of damage before it leaves the field. Now, the way that you disarm this Ninjask is pretty clear. All it needs is a taunt, and then everything that you wanted to do with stat boost transfers for the main supporter's function is lost. So I really hope that Final Gambit does as I think it would, because it has the nice added bonus of not being affected by any sort of type disadvantage. It just does pure damage, deals pure damage on the Pokemon that you're hitting, and then allows Ninjask to fade away in honor. But with Giga Impact, it's still pretty good. You know, if you can get it out of the field when you know the taunt is coming, do so. If you've just been taunted, then try to counteract with something that is going to resist whatever's on the field, so that you could basically throw it back in your opponent's face saying, "Oh, you want me to attack you? Fine. I'll be relentless then, and you'll see my supporter later." Because Ninjask's main purpose is not to do this last resort final attack, but it is just that. It's a last resort. If there's no other options for you, you can still potentially clinch victory if the opponent's hit points is less than 300, or potentially they are weak to the Giga Impact. But that about covers it for Ninjask as a supporter. It's a very excellent one at that, and I would like to know, of Baton Pass supporters, what is your favorite? You know, this is my favorite personally, because it boosts speed by just remaining on the field thanks to its speed boost ability, whereas other baton passers have to actually invest a couple of turns in boosting up their own stats before transferring it to the rest of your team, which endangers them in potentially taking damage and also disastrously giving your opponent a bit of time to set up their own stat boosts. So if you get something on the field like a Dragonite that uses Dragon Dance while you're wasting time boosting up your own stats that you're just inevitably transferring to the next poke, then that Dragon Claw that it unleashes will be deadly, and you'll have a tough time defeating it from there on out. Alright guys, I'm DioGenZ. Again, remember to subscribe to Planet Poke for all the Pokemon of the Week content you can get, plus more excellent content from the other creators on this channel. And also, do me a favor and go to the link in the description that leads to my channel, because I do walkthroughs and Let's Plays galore. Currently, I am going through my Super Indie Summer. We're playing World of Goo, and the game Waves is coming up next. So I love and appreciate all of you for your Pokemon research input, and I'll see you Poke Scientists next week.